Yeah, we're ready. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Temple City Council to conduct a workshop. It is 2:04 on Thursday, March 17th, and we will just dive right in. Maybe. The first thing is public comments. I see a list, an empty list, so there's none of those. We'll move on to section 2 is a work session. Item 1 is to discuss is maybe needed any regular meeting agenda items for tonight's meeting. I've already been told that we are going to table item 3D on the consent. Sorry, pull for voting purposes or table. Table. So we are table.
Our staff is requesting that you table it, I should say.
Okay. Very good. Yeah. We're working out a lease, I believe. Council, is there anything else in your prep for today's meeting that needs to be pulled or discussed further? Item 4 is on the regular agenda for voting purposes. I believe Councilmember Morales will be abstaining from that vote. We've already had the presentation, so more than likely, unless somebody wants to see the presentation, we'll skip that and just go right into vote.
I will be abstaining from item
5. Gotcha. Then we were up in the air as to whether or not we were tabling 7.
We are proceeding.
Going once. Okay. Moving on to item 2 is to receive a City of Temple Boards and Commissions annual report from Ms. Carol.
So, Mayor and Council, I'm very excited to present y'all this report. It's actually the first ever Boards and Commissions report that y'all will receive. As you remember, I think about a year ago, you updated the Boards and Commissions policy, and in that update, it included language that required each board and commission to submit to each of you annually a report of their previous 12 months activities along with their goals and work plans, et cetera. And so what we have decided to do is in front of you, you have the actual report, and inside of that, there's some information just for yourself. Each board and commission that you as council members serve as liaisons, and then each of the boards that submitted their report during this cycle, there'll be some board information for them as well as their roster. And then further after that, you'll see the actual report that was submitted by each board, board chair and board liaison. And so what I encourage you to do is to take this report, read it in depth. There were some excellent reports that were submitted. So for the sake of time, what we decided to do was to give a presentation that briefly highlighted each of these boards and commissions reports instead of going through each one of them in depth. And so that's what I'll be doing for you up here. Now, either on Zoom or in person in the room is actually the board liaison or the department head. So at any time while I'm giving these reports, if you have a question, please stop me and we can ask the board liaison. They're obviously the expert in this. I was just tasked with pulling out what I thought was important out of their board report. And then, of course, we want your feedback. Since this is the first time we've ever given this board report, at the end of it, let us know, is this the process you would like to see? Is this the presentation you want to see? Would you like to see more information, less information? You know, is this report here sufficient? Do you need to see more? So be thinking about that as we also go through. And also just a little final thing, I would want to commend and applaud the board liaisons. It is no easy task keeping up with the board, with all of the board members, getting the agendas ready and posted on time, creating the minutes. It really is a task, and often these meetings are after normal working hours. So I just really want to commend the board liaisons for all their work in dealing with these boards. So what I'm going to do is go over the requirements for the annual board report, give you some quick board stats, and then really get into the nitty-gritty of each board and their activities and goals, and then we'll go over the August report. So first of all, the language that was added to the Boards and Commissions policy stipulated that each board turn in a report outlining their previous 12 months activity. They also had to give a cover letter addressed to the mayor and the council, a summary of their last 12 months. They also had to add information of how they responded to city council goals and work plan. Now just pause for a second and explain this. A lot of the boards did not have set goals yet. And so what they did, either they explained they did not have set goals and wanted to use the goals they're setting now for future, or some of them actually took the city's goals and applied those to their board. And so you'll see that reflected in the actual report. They also needed to set goals, recommend goals for themselves that council can approve. You'll also see in the report a summary of attendance. They actually highlighted in yellow those members who have violated the attendance policy, so you'll be able to quickly see that. And then also they could include any other information that they felt they need to do. So the way the boards and commissions report is set up, we actually do it twice a year based on when these board members are appointed. We appoint in April and October. So for the sake of today's presentation, you're only going to see information on these 8 boards. The remaining 9 boards presentation will not be until later in the fall or end of summer. And so you can see there, you're going to see the BSC, the Development Standards Advisory Board, Historic Preservation, the Library Board, Main Street Advisory Board, Neighborhood Revitalization Advisory Board, Parks and Rec, and the ZBA. So just keep that in mind. Those are the only 8 boards you're going to see in this report. So I just thought this was interesting, just some quick stats to throw out at you. Again, these 8 boards over the course of last year collectively met 85 times. So that was 85 meetings, 85 agendas, 85 minutes, 85 times the board liaison wanted to pull their hair out. There is also a total of 67 members that serve on these 8 boards. You had 11 vacancies and received 25 applications. And of course, you will be considering appointments to those 11 vacancies at tonight's city council meeting. The Main Street Advisory Board plus their 4 subcommittees wins the prize for meeting the most times. They met 55 times last year. So congratulations.
There you go, Dan.
So now kind of getting into the nitty gritty of the actual board reports. And again, if you have a specific question for the board liaison, just stop me and we can certainly ask that. The Building Standards Commission heard a total of 15 cases, 10 of which the owners received orders to demolish all the structures on their property, and 5 of which the owners were given orders to secure their property. The goals that the BSC kind of set for themselves was to establish some procedures to deal with the civil penalties collected by the city and also to address the accumulation of waste on property. They also were very adamant about wanting to research the possibility of placing liens on the properties to recover the demolition costs. Your Development Standards Advisory Board, this is a board that only meets as needed. As such, they only met 1 time last year. I believe that was in July. But during that meeting, the board members discussed and actually approved revisions to the dumpster enclosure specification and details. They also discussed a requirement to extend utilities to and through a development. And the goal they want to set is actually to go back and look at that to and through again and see if they can come close to making some recommendations on that. Your Historic Preservation Board, I don't know if it was because I was a history major, but I really like this quote that the board chair put in her cover letter. And it said, the provision of continuing education and the promotion of historic preservation will ensure the city of Temple's character, culture, and sense of community remain for generations to come. And I just kind of thought that was very poignant. It's of note that all of the activities that they accomplished was actually required so that they could submit a future application to become a certified local government through the Texas Historical Commission. So all of the things you see over there on the side were required for this application, including preservation training, that certificate of appropriateness, and also recommend to receive approval of those minor revisions to Chapter 17, which the council has recently done. The staff has actually compiled a pretty extensive work plan that you will see in your physical board report in front of you. And the historic board actually recommended that this be approved, and they work towards fulfilling all of those goals. Their current activities underway is working towards establishing a historic district in East Temple, as well as developing programming and documents for historic designation, and also developing educational material, as well as taking a more comprehensive approach to looking at that Chapter 17. Recommendations for upcoming goals and work plan. And again, they have an extensive list in there. I just pulled out a few, and that would be budget for a historic research survey, coordinate and provide training for their members, and also explore local tax credit abatement programs. The Library Advisory Board, it really looked like they focused mainly on reviewing and updating their policies. And you can see all of the policies listed there that this board really took a thorough look at, including meeting room, study room, display board policies, unattended child policy, programming policy, internet usage policy, and I'll just give you a second to read through that.
Can I just interject?
Please.
With the policies, since a lot of these were discussed during COVID, they may change as things open up again more.
Okay, and Natalie's actually on Zoom right now, so I'm sure she heard that and can make a note of that maybe since.
Oh, well, she knows. She knows that better than I do.
Yeah, we're coming out of maybe COVID, and they can take another look at these policies.
If needed.
If needed.
But you have to get the child policy. Get yourself confused. Their standards for.
I would look at that.
And some of the goals that the library board looked at or want to look at in the future is reviewing the library bookmobile policy. And they actually also want to look at purchasing a new library bookmobile. They also want to review marketing and outreach. And I think their big thing is the library master plan that you're all aware of. The Main Street Advisory Board, this is a very unique board to the city because there is a Main Street Advisory Board, and then they actually have 4 subcommittees. But before we talk about that, I do want to say that they were recognized as a 2021 accredited program of Main Street America. And Main Street America takes this 4-point approach, which is promotion, design, economic vitality, and organization. And those are actually the name of the 4 subcommittees under the Main Street Advisory Board. They also had a very comprehensive list of goals that you will see in your physical board report. They actually listed out 41 different goals. I just pulled out the ones again that stuck out to me, which was updating downtown wayfinding and signage, creating event space in a cultural district in the city center, branding and marketing, and also promotion and revitalization of the downtown area with incentives for business. So because they had 4 subcommittees, I further divided those down into their activities for each subcommittee. The Economic Vitality Committee really focused on brainstorming sessions and acting as a network, bringing together these owners of properties in downtown and potential business owners that are in search of property downtown. And I don't know if it was through that process, but in the end, there was actually 12 new or expanded businesses that opened up shop in downtown Temple last year. The design committee really heard several reports on owner-delivered improvements to downtown and progress reports of various public improvement projects. They also were invaluable in providing information to the downtown neighborhood plan and also received programming from the Texas Main Street Program reports. The next 2 subcommittees of this board is the promotion committee. And I think everyone is aware that their big thing is First Fridays. And it's very interesting the way they do it. It's a decentralized promotional program, whereas the business owners decide what they want to promote and relay that to Main Street staff, who then promote it as a public downtown event. And there's a list of all the events that they promoted for the business owners listed. These include several concerts, several holiday events such as Oktoberfest, Dia de los Muertos, and Cinco de Mayo, the Downtown Farmers Market, food truck frenzies, and you can read all of the others there. And then the organization committee, they had Preservation Month where they hosted a photo contest, whereas people would enter their photos of historic downtown buildings, and also the third annual Imagine the Possibilities tour. This is a side note, before I even thought of coming to work for the City of Temple, I actually got an invitation from Fox Dog to come do a succulent workshop during the Imagine the Possibilities tour. They were a stop on that. And I remember thinking what a neat concept that was. And then, of course, they did the business after hours reception. And that was just to remind you, all these events, they're not staged and hosted by the Main Street Board or Main Street staff. They're actually hosted by the stakeholders who attended all of these subcommittee meetings and shared their event plans. And then the staff were able to promote them. And there's just some photos, and there's more photos in your physical file as well that they included of their subcommittee meetings. The Neighborhood Revitalization Advisory Board really provided a lot of volunteer and support for all of the neighborhood planning, such as survey canvassing, the kickoff events, and public forums. And you can see there that they acted as a focus group to review these neighborhood plans and also make recommendations. They also reviewed and make recommendations on how to use CDBG funds and approved community enhancement grant applications. By reading their board report, their future goals is really to focus on assisting with various programming, such as the rental reinvestment program, the homelessness and mental health strategic plan, and also any future neighborhood plans. Parks and Rec Advisory Board heard a lot of external presentations concerning sports and youth sports associations in Temple, as well as internal presentations on the update of Whistle Stop, the 4th of July event, and also, is it Pruitt Park? I asked everyone I knew and no one knew. And so I thought it was Pruitt, so I want to say it correctly. And this past year, they also make recommendations to council to increase the fee at Salmons and to also rename the soccer fields at Crossroad Parks after Peter Denharder. Their goals and work plan that they have set for next year is to continue to review those fees and make recommendations to city manager, continue to work closely with the youth sports associations, and also continue to recommend the naming of any parks or facilities to city council, as well as serve on various subcommittees for this board for specific projects. Our last board that you'll hear about today is the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Again, this board only meets as needed, and as such, they met twice last year in July and September. For their September meeting, they actually heard 2 variance cases, and they were granted finding in favor of the applicant. For your upcoming board report that we anticipate coming to you in August, you'll see the 9 boards up there, the remaining 9 that will be submitting their report to you. So if y'all would like to see anything different or change between now and then, now's the time to tell us, so we can convey that to the liaisons. But your other 9 boards, of course, is the Youth Advisory Commission, the Airport Board, the Animal Services Board, Citizens Advisory Board, Civil Service Commission, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Emergency Services Board, Planning and Zoning, and the RZ. So, do y'all have any questions or feedback?
Amazing.
Thank you.
It's really informational. You'd think that the council would, well, I won't speak for the rest of the council, but you'd think that we would have known more of these things. It's really,
Well, I think that's why you update the policy.
very
so
good.
now, yeah.
A lot of help.
Yeah, and again, in your physical report here, you will see the report in a lot more detail and in depth for each board.
Very good presentation.
Thank you so much.
I wonder if they knew what they were getting into, especially which group was that had 55?
Main Street.
Aren't you the liaison there?
Judy is.
I think Phil needs something else to do.
But I like to go to the meeting.
Off lots of meetings. That really is good. And I think, this is the beginning of, this is the beginning of, I'm not saying this right, I'm sorry. I know we as the council put in a lot of work, and the staff put in a lot of work getting people in to interview. We also did a lot of, but I think that the thing's most exciting about this process, I think that we're putting people where they want to serve instead of sticking them in a slot because we have a spot. So I think as we continue to move forward, this is going to make a big difference in what actually happens, but then also within the development of future leaders. So I think
I think the reporting in particular also really strengthens the communication between the council and the board. So I think in the past, a lot of times there was just a really big disconnect about what, a few of the more active boards that have more, like P&Z or RZ that routinely have items that have to come to council for recommendation or for approval. But your more advisory boards, I feel like without this reporting, we felt more disconnected. So thank you, Liz, for all your hard work on helping get everybody report in, and absolutely appreciate that.
whenever it's appropriate, I think that we might need to, it would probably be smart to take a look at those boards that don't feel like they have goals, right? Because again, we've talked about putting somebody in a slot and then not really feeling like they're contributing. So for those groups that, there's a couple of boards you said that went out and they sought out their own goals. And I think we, where we can as a council and staff, we need to be more purposeful about giving them goals that align with what we're trying to get done. So whenever it's appropriate to slot that in and start planning.
Absolutely.
What about the ones that, the yellow dots with excessive absences? What have we said about how we handle that or don't handle it, or?
Right, so there is a process, and I believe 3 consecutive absences, or I can't remember the percentage. Yeah, 3 consecutive, or maybe 2/3 of meetings overall. And then Jana conveys that, of course, to the appropriate people, and that's when you have new appointees.
And does Janet gracefully call the person and say thank you, but it's not working?
She does.
Right, so what we have asked of all liaisons to keep our office informed when they do reach that threshold, so then she can start the process
Okay.
of figuring out, of course, what council wants to do with that position, but then also talking to the board member. And so that has started kind of just recently going into effect.
Good.
We talked internally about a couple, just on Monday, we didn't update this policy for 20 years, and then I feel like we've updated it 10 times since you adopted it last year, but we're gonna make recommendations for a few more tweaks to clarify what is an excused absence, to give some more guidance about excused versus unexcused absence. More clarity on, do unfilled positions count against the board's quorum or not? And just one other, that when vacancies occur because of a forfeited position, that those will be held open until the next round of appointments for that board, unless council directs staff to do otherwise, so that you're not just constantly getting I know you guys love to do the interviews, but kind of consolidate that down to 2 times a year. So, and also probably a few tweaks to the, it may be more than a few tweaks, but we're finding some challenges with the advisory commission. It's just it's a much different kind of process, and I think we need a little bit more we would recommend a little bit more flexibility in terms of how they meet and their agendas and more flexibility for them. So we'll bring that back in the next few meetings to talk about more.
And also as a refresher, this is my niece
Yes.
and my great niece.
She was in the parade with you too, right?
Yes, they both were.
I didn't realize that was your family.
Well, thank them because, I'm
Yeah.
featuring them quite often in my presentation.
I know Heather was nice to send me the pictures, so I had a copy and sent to them. So they-
Is she the one who brought the Christmas parade?
Yes.
Oh, she was so
I
cute.
know.
With that said, thank you for having me. Obviously, I'm Director of Planning and Development. And one thing that I don't often include in my quarterly presentations, I'm going to, particularly because I have some of my staff in here with me, is to just feature that some of you probably haven't heard in a while that we actually consist of 3 different teams. Of course, Planning and Zoning, that's Planning and Zoning Commission being one of those. Of course, permitting and inspections, but Community Vitality, which includes the Main Street program and the Historic Preservation Board and Kelly's work related to preservation, but also neighborhood planning. And so just really want to recognize that part of planning, which is a lot of fun stuff going on there. And so just major accomplishments in the most recent quarter, starting with some grant submittals. So the Georgetown Railroad Trail Phase 2, which starts, Phase 1, as you know, is funded from Ray Allen Elementary to 31st Street. And then west of 31st Street is Phase 2. And so that includes the preservation element as well. So preservation of the MKT Railroad Bridge across the Leon River. And so we submitted that through Congressman Carter's office, along with a new proposed historic district, which we're actually working with the community on that historic district. And Councilmember Morales has been a huge part of that. But this grant is to request some additional funding to expand the research opportunities, particularly focusing on Temple's African American history. And so we're excited to submit that one to conservation, preservation through Carter's office as well. Dan, of course, is here. We mentioned the alignment of the Main Street initiatives through the Main Street Advisory Board. And so may not sound like a huge task, but in terms of, incorporating the board into the policy of the boards and commissions and really taking all the goals and initiatives that are downtown related, and that's through the comprehensive plan, the strategic plan, the reinvestment zones, quality of life plan, and a number of others, just making sure that those are incorporated into the Main Street initiative so that we're looking at all of the comprehensive city policies that would guide that board. Also, I've been throwing in here a number of pre-development meetings, and y'all tell me if this isn't interesting, but I find it interesting, so I report it to you that, to me, it's just kind of an unofficial metric of the level of interest in the community. And we've seen a variety of very interesting projects, over the last quarter, some that come to you, some that will in the future, some that never will. But either way, it's just interesting just to see the array of different projects in which they come to us and are interested in developing in Temple. CIS grants, which my staff over here is actively involved in as well. 3 different ones approved the previous quarter. One for the MHMR building, which in its own right is really a historic building, not designated, but certainly has historic significance on South 22nd Street. And so that was council approved at one of the most recent meetings. Also, 9 North Main was another CIS grant that you all approved on that same agenda. And that's for Travis Wilkes's building. It's really 7 through 11 North Main. And so one of the most recent businesses, Community Cha, it just opened in there as well. So bubble tea and traditional Chinese tea and dumplings. And then an administrative CIS grant for Weird Dough's Bakery, And so, yes, it's Weird Does. It is a pun and clever. So they're on 6th Street and very close to the Arcadia and Han. And I think that was a project that presumably made them interested in that part of downtown. And so that's exciting as well.
So tell us about Weird Does. What are the weird does?
Sandwiches and
But nothing weird?
don't know, not sure. They just, I think they like the uniqueness of the concept, and I don't want to promote them yet. I'll let them do their promotion, because I would probably fail miserably at that.
Well, tell them when they promote themselves that we take food.
Okay, all right. Okay.
They brought cookies to a meeting.
There you go. Yes, they did.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
And it was
yeah.
anything but weird. It was
Well, they weren't weird. They
These
were
are
wonderful.
good. Also annexations. Of course, you've seen 2 large ones in the last quarter. Moore's Mill Road, the outer loop, 179 acres, and then the Temple Green Data Center, which essentially extended Synergy Park by 161 acres. So you have a data center that is in progress out there. And so 2 significant annexations. And then also, and I don't want to take credit for these projects, but we were excited to be involved in the sidewalk projects along South 31st Street, and then most recently Central and Adams between 31st Street and downtown. And so Richard and Don and his staff and really a variety of departments have made that happen, but we were excited to be involved mostly on the front end of that. And so it's fun to see the completion and then be able to say, hey, look what happens when we all work together.
Brian, I saw last week, later in the evening, on the sidewalk on South 31st Street up by near Scott and White and Avenue R, a guy skateboarding with a little furry dog wrapped around his neck, and the dog's ears were flying in the breeze, and they were both having a fabulous time. And I thought, there's a new sidewalk. That's great.
Yeah.
I've been done.
So in here, this is from yesterday. So one of those grant projects you can see in progress, and I get excited about dirty brick underneath, newer inappropriate facades. So I wanted to feature that. And in the bottom right, you can see that's the proposed elevation of what that will look like.
Do I spy a rooftop bar?
Eventually, yes, I think that it will probably be a phase 3, but phase 2 will include the sprinkler system and the elevator work. So that was the second grant that most recently they received, which will obviously allow them to finish out the second floor and have tenants up there, but eventually rooftop as well.
I drove by that. If you'll go back one,
Yes, sir.
that right there at the scaffolding, that gray block.
Uh-huh.
They're putting something on that today, and we're sanding it, and it was like it was snowing styrofoam
Oh.
today. Yeah, it was just everywhere. I don't know what they're closing in there. Well, obviously they're closing in. But I don't know what they were using, but it was an interesting product.
Yeah, yeah,
It wasn't cementitious.
it was not. Okay.
So what's the total going to be?
Well, there are already 3 tenants. You've got the salon, you've got the community chaw, which
Right.
is really behind the rooftop deck there. And then let's see, I guess the
Smokehouse?
2 salons. What's the other one?
Smokehouse barbecue.
Oh, Smokehouse. Yeah, Bill's Smokehouse is
Okay,
coming.
that's right.
So I guess there are just
No.
2 tenants now. And yeah, okay. And so Bill's Smokehouse is coming. And so for the next 90 days, our biggest priority is to finish the hiring process for our senior planner that you all funded in the most recent cycle, who will focus on implementation of the comprehensive plan. And the biggest priority of that implementation, of course, is rewriting the Unified Development Code and also getting that RFP issued for the contract to rewrite our code, which has served us well, but it is time to move on and probably have something with more graphics and fewer words. Bell County Memorandum of Understanding, working under David's leadership and working closely with county commissioners and county engineer staff. We're getting pretty close. It's been a good reiterative process, and I think we're almost there. So at some point in probably the next quarter, we'll be back in front of you all, giving you an update. Mention the African American Churches Historic District. That is the name of what came out of the neighborhood meeting that Councilmember Morales was involved with a week ago tonight. And so working closely with the Temple Co-ed Association of Ministers and Pastors. And so they initiated that process. And in working with Kelly, we identified a boundary that makes sense, and have worked with all the property owners within that boundary to create what would be the second local historic district in Temple. Imagine the Possibilities Tour, May 22nd? 25th. See, thank you, Dan. And then other exciting annexations, one of which is on tonight's agenda, and that's the 95 acres along 93, WBW being the owner and developer, to essentially expand the Alta Vista neighborhood. And then 63 acre, what we're calling the former Dixie Smythe property at 37 and 2483. And so that is adjacent to the Bailey tract, which came in several months ago and would enable for a large mixed-use development right across from Lake Belton High School. And so I think what's interesting is when you just look at the last 3 months and then the next 3 months, with just voluntary annexation, we will have expanded our city limits by over 1% in terms of acreage, so over a square mile. And so that's pretty significant. And then lastly, the Mobility Master Plan. Richard is one of the project managers, and then Jason Deckman, our Senior Transportation Planner, are co-project managers on that. And so we're hitting the home stretch, finishing up the public input and actually the draft, and then projecting to take it to council in May, at least at this point. So we'd like to give you our quarterly graphs, just to let you know how the permit situation is going. Of course, you got green last year and then blue this year, and the corresponding months. And so on the right, when we look at all permits, you'll see that even though last year was a record-breaking year, we are on a pace to exceed that by 11.5%. And similar to just single-family residential or housing starts, as we sometimes call them, but yeah, last year, record-breaking year. This year, we are on pace with that. And then inspections, you would think it's going to be proportionate, primarily with the number of permits, but either way, you can see it here. It just confirms with a 13% increase this year versus last year of the same period.
Hey, Brian,
Yes, ma'am.
could you back up?
Mm-hmm.
I've got to be missing something.
Not necessarily. Go ahead and ask your question, and
There's
be
something
made.
wrong with me. Inspections in 21 and 22, and you've got October, November, December. We haven't come to October, November, December in 22 yet, have we?
Sorry, good question, because it's really, we're using the fiscal year, so it's really
Oh,
calendar
I
year.
got it.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
calendar
great-
year. So
great question.
that's why the two columns match up, so to speak.
That's right.
I got it.
And that's why we're starting with October.
Okay.
So, no, great question.
I
And
thought I
just-
was in the wrong year,
No,
which
no,
I do
you're-
often.
No, and just from a plating and zoning perspective, just comparable, a little higher for zoning cases over Q1 versus Q4, and plats very comparable. No variances, as was reported in the previous report. Liz did a great job on that. So yeah, that's what we strive for. No variances, and we had 2 in September, and that's all from last year. Means everybody's following code. Downtown businesses, and of course, Dan reported this and through Liz, that 5 or at least 4 of them in the most recent quarter, starting with Total Elegance Creations at 15 South Main, Darling Decor and more. Some of you may know, others have just realized that 110 North Main is now occupied with an antique store. Well, it's Darling Decor and More has essentially expanded on either side of the City Eats building. So that's exciting. Fox Dog Coffee and Tap Room and Community Chaw Tea, as we mentioned before, coming soon. Weirdo's Bakery, and then Bill's Smokehouse, which would be the third tenant at 7 through 11 North Main. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Oh, too bad that too large, but either way, you didn't capture Jason's St. Patrick's glasses and the tiny little green leprechaun hat.
Very good tie, though.
He's there.
He's both of them. Very good.
Showing our St. Patrick's Day spirit.
Good report.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you. You guys have been busy.
Been busy and fun.
So you have a new senior planner
Not yet.
position available.
Correct.
And you have it out, you have it posted and
Working on posting that right now because we've been working closely with marketing and legal and HR to capture the widest market and pool. And so, especially right now, it's been, I think, talking to other cities, some of those specialized planner positions, recruiting has been challenging. So we want to make sure that when we get it out there, that we've got our best foot forward.
Yep, absolutely.
Specialized because why? Why is it special?
Well, it's just, so a position like this, for one, planners, we're a little bit odd and
No.
yeah, figure that out. Yeah.
No.
So they don't just grow on trees. It often comes with master's degree requirements, et cetera. And so just recruiting them just as a general planning position is challenging. But then this is a very specialized one with the code writing.
Oh, the code writing.
Yeah.
That's where, yeah.
If anyone knows any planners,
Yes,
we have been trying to brainstorm where to steal from.
yes, we're.
Well, I got a message yesterday from a dear friend in Belton, which said, "Don't look at us for anything again."
We've already seen your work. We're good.
We stole their greatest asset over there. Right? We take
I feel like we've stolen a lot of great assets. And,
We've been coaching for sure.
we don't want to make any more enemies.
Thus, the message that I would receive.
Sean, you're up.
All right.
I knew that because of the plane.
You're quick, sir. On top of it. Good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to review the first quarter of this fiscal year for the airport and its activities. Some of the accomplishments we did in the first quarter of this fiscal year. Really fun item we got to be a part of is Dream Flight. A company comes in with an open cockpit steerman, takes up World War II veterans for a flight to honor them and commemorate their service to our country during World War II. One was a 98-year-old and the other one was 101. I've got a picture of it here momentarily of the fun that we had. We started marketing strategy planning with the marketing communications team. We're preparing for our new FBO. We want to brand and market a brand new entity and company with that FBO to give it its own identity, separate from the city, so that we can work on having great rapport, customer service, and excellent service, and people not thinking, well, it's a city department and it's going to not be as well. So we had some information given to us through one of the studies we had done, and that was one of their suggestions. Also, along with that, we're going to be looking at marketing and preparing for the 2023 air show. Every year in October, we host the Runway Classic. It's a 5K and 10K run around the perimeter of the airport. The Texas Emergency Medical Task Force comes in. They teach local medical personnel how to erect a mobile MASH unit, for lack of a better term. It's a portable hospital and facilities that can be trucked around the state, and in case any emergency occurs or natural disaster, everybody in that area is familiar with and ready to put up this mobile hospital. So we helped them with their training at the airport. We completed appraisals of our 2 large commercial hangars. We did an appraisal for what it would cost to sell them, and we did an appraisal of what we should be leasing and what rate we should lease them out at, just to make sure that we are in the ballpark of what we are asking for lease rate.
Is there much of a market out there now for that? I mean, I would assume there would be.
There is somewhat of a market, but unfortunately, with the restrictions that we have on the door sizes of our large commercial hangars, we're really restricted on what type of aircraft and business that we can bring in. We had a formation flight clinic. Everybody remembers seeing airplanes flying in formation over the city. This year, next month, we're going to have the same formation clinic, and we'll have 60 aircraft here. Since COVID is over, numbers are starting to get back. People are really wanting to participate in this. So it'll be a neat event.
Do you know the date?
April 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Thanks.
And then the airport staff, we wanted to give our airport tenants a reason to come out to the FBO. We provided a barbecue. We called it the Give Our Tenants Thanks event in middle of November. For our first event, it had a pretty good turnout, a lot of fun, thanks to Parks and Rec. Beaver's left, but thanks to his group for bringing out some cornhole stuff for us to have kids and adults get to play that. It was a lot of fun. Kudos to Kelly's team for helping us out. ITGIS, they completed the Airport City Works web-based program. And this takes all of our daily inspections, weekly inspections, monthly inspections, quarterly inspections onto a web-based software program. It also includes a work order system. So when the guys are out inspecting the airfield, if a light's been broken or anything out there, they can hit the map on their iPad, and it sends the GPS coordinates to our airfield maintenance to know that that light is broken, they need to get it fixed, and then it follows through with the work being completed and signed off. I have to tell you that this saved the airport $10,000 in setup fees alone, and then $2,000 a year in an annual fee if we would have gone through an outside agency for this. So thank you again for all y'all's help. We had a few issues with call-out procedures. Some people felt that they weren't getting served like they should be during outside hours of the FBO. So we went out, bought a new cell phone, and we put together a procedure for one employee to be on call every night, making sure that that phone is answered and anybody's services needs are met. TxDOT Aviation has selected our airport to be a continuity airport. Basically, what this means, if a natural disaster or something happens in Austin, that airport is closed down, TxDOT Aviation will move their operation to our airport. Some interesting facts I didn't realize, TxDOT Aviation has 37 aircraft in their fleet, but that includes the governor's aircraft, DPS, Parks and Wildlife, and Department of Homeland Security. We have a new position at the airport. We're going to be ramping this up, the customer service representative position, and we needed to come up with job description, an employee manual, and training syllabus for this person, so we completed that. Now there's a picture of the group. The one in the wheelchair, she's the 101-year-old. She was a commander in the Navy as a nurse. And the other one was an Army nurse during World War II. So the next 90 days, which is the current fiscal period we're in, we're filling 4 positions that are open at the airport. All 4 of them pretty much have been completed. We're just in the final phases of the part-time CSR to be finished, and we'll be fully staffed. We started working with KPA to amend the airport master plan, future land use plan. And this is going to update the current airport master plan on the new way of how we're going to utilize the airport and how we're going to bring in business and where it's going to be located, things like that. We'll continue working with marketing communications on FBO branding and media. And we'll be going out for bidding process to remove more trees and vegetation inside the airport fence. We have begun rewriting the airport emergency plan. We'll be working with fire and police on this and updating the ARF training syllabus for our firefighters that work at the airport. And then we're going to audit we already have audited and updated our current corporate hangar leases. We just wanted to make sure that all the airport leases, corporate, business, and private, they are supposed to get cost of living increases. Some of them are annually, some of them are every 5 years, and we just wanted to audit that, make sure that we were where we're supposed to be on that. And then hopefully, not hopefully, but we have started advertising for bids of the construction of the new FBO terminal and bids of the corporate hangar expansion area. So some of our KPIs that we followed to make sure how the airport's been operating compared to other months and years. This fiscal year is the red line. Obviously, operations is landing and takeoffs for aircrafts. And as you see above everywhere from fiscal year 19, we've been, fiscal year 19, we didn't have this information yet. So just 20 and 21 will show that. And we're above normal operations at the airport. So if you combine all our fuel, avgas, and jet with fiscal year 22 being the red line, we are not quite yet back to normal numbers of pre-COVID. Total gallons altogether, we have been struggling under fiscal year 20 and 19. If we just break it down to jet fuel, same issue, just underneath fiscal year 19 and 20. And those, of course, were pre-COVID years. Who buys our jet fuel? Well, 55% is corporate aviation at the airport. That's our tenants that have a hangar there. 41% is transit traffic, people just coming through or visiting Temple to do business. And then, of course, 4% is our military friends. That number will unfortunately decrease a lot in the next couple of quarters because all of Fort Hood's aviation groups have now been deployed to Europe. So they're no longer visiting us right now. So if we go down to avgas, which is for your prop airplanes, you'll see that November, we were trying to make a comeback and do a lot better than fiscal year 19, but then December, we dropped down to COVID numbers again. Who's buying avgas? Well, we can only break this down into who receives full service, which means our employee and truck go to them, fill them up. That's 59% of our customers. And then we have a self-serve pump area, and that's 41% of our customers. I'm really surprised that self-serve numbers aren't higher than that. We may see that in the fiscal the quarter that we're in now, just because fuel prices are so high, they get a 38-cent discount if they go to self-serve. So our 74 T hangers are full, and we now have 98 on the waiting list. I'd love to get some new T hangers.
That's a cool.
Oh,
Good idea.
Appreciate it. Of the 231 and a half acres that we can lease, that does include existing hangars that the city owns. We lease out 9% of that right now.
Empty land.
Empty land, or it does include 13 and a half acres of our empty commercial hangars.
Okay.
Sean,
Yes, sir.
back up just one. 231 acres. What is the total size of the airport footprint? Is it the 231?
No, sir, 922.
922.
Yes, sir.
922 acres?
Yes.
Yes.
Square acres. Unfortunately, some land that is between runways can't be utilized because of visual site rules. Some can't be utilized just because right now it's a forest, or there's no access off of anywhere to it.
Okay.
Airport fire guys had no responses in the first quarter. Grant money that we've received from TxDOT Aviation and the feds, $58,000 is our annual ramp grant money that we get. We're going to be using it for the tree and vegetation removal. And then we received $59,000 from the Federal Airport Rescue Grant, and that's basically some COVID money that the federal government gave out. Look at revenue and expenses for the airports. Overall, for the first quarter, we did an excellent job of revenues exceeding our costs by 2%. And that's all I have, except for a skydiving leprechaun.
That looks like Guy Fowler, doesn't it?
It does?
Any questions? All right, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I'm sorry. The the $50,000 tree removal stuff, is that gonna make more land, more rentable space?
Right now, we're focusing on clearing land that's inside of runway safety areas
Okay.
that cannot be
Yeah, it can't
utilized
be
for
used but
anything
for
else.
safety.
Yeah, but for safety. That's
Makes
correct.
sense. Thanks.
Sure, I'll go. I think yours is gonna be more exciting than mine.
I don't think so.
It's always a contest between me and Kelly, who's got the most exciting stuff to talk about. And sorry, but I don't have any skydiving leprechauns. But hopefully it will still be entertaining. We're gonna report on the period from July to December
You
of
see this slide though?
2021.
So when we went over this yesterday in a Teams meeting, of course, he said, does my slide look correct? And what he said,
As if it was appropriately maximized.
yes. And so I started explaining, no, it's not. And he's, I'm just kidding.
That was actually an honest mistake. I wish I could take credit for that. A very good.
I thought you did it on purpose.
I wish I would have. I really do. So we are going to report for transportation, solid waste, and fleet. We split these up into two. New employees, as always, plenty of new faces. And the bigger pictures on the slide are going to be all new employees except for Eugene. We wanted to put him on there because he is our new residential foreman. In fleet, there's only one new face on there, but we wanted to take the picture of all of them together because that auto shop is fully staffed for the first time in 9 months. So definitely something we want to celebrate. We mostly in transportation spent the previous, this reporting period just getting fixed up from Winter Storm Uri. And Southern Draw and North Cliff two of our biggest projects. You can see them reconstructed there. And just a note from the performance indicators, you can see it was really mid-November that we got caught up from Winter Storm Uri work. So that's when we got back to doing alley repairs at our typical rate. Plenty new vehicles placed in service, placed 7 new vehicles in service. All these you see here, 2 of one of these, and also a Parks mower. Also, fleet did a lot of work fixing stuff, a lot of work buying 21 more assets to place in service eventually. They reviewed some operating procedures and practices with our new CNG station maintenance contractor. And solid waste, the household has this waste event. This number really jumped out at us. You can see the largest section of the pie chart, and what we took in was paint. A lot of it is still usable. So a change in practice that we're doing is we're now taking paint all year long. And so it is going to be made available to Nancy for Habitat for Humanity, and as well as anybody who wants them in the meantime. Justin told the group earlier this week that a farmer came in and got some to paint his cattle guards with. So,
What a great idea.
so yeah,
What a
better than in the
great idea.
landfill for sure.
Yeah.
Your graph on the lower right, it's a misleading scale on the left, but those 2 numbers are very, the blue and the red are very comparable. The blue is first time participants in the household hazardous waste collection event. So it gets a little bigger every year. I really want to try to do something next year to ease the wait time in line. So we really need to think about that. I know some folks sat in line for a long time. State of the landfill meeting, that's just the annual thing we do with waste management. We talk about how they're operating, how it affects us. One of the big thing that came out of this is a commitment from them to have a dedicated lane for city trucks so that our solid waste collection trucks don't need to sit in line behind everybody else. And it's going to be just standard practice for them to go on through and then get back out on the route so they don't spend any time sitting in line.
Which has been a significant problem in the past, especially when it's muddy.
Yeah, we have a lot of routes that they need to come back and dump in the middle of the day. You know, they start early in the morning, they fill the truck up, and they need to visit the landfill before they complete their route for that day. So it can be, a really bad case is 2 hours sitting in line. But, even if you spend 20 minutes sitting in line, I mean, that's a lot of inefficiency when you apply that over, hopefully. So my boss and our solid waste director went to Florida and learned about underground refuge containers, which from studying your neighborhood district plans, you'll recall that we have some of those showing up in those recommendations. Here's what they look like. And there's a lot more, kind of like an iceberg, there's a lot more below the ground than there is above it. So one thing that we are doing this reporting period, which we'll eventually report on to you, is we're looking at the costs of those and seeing what the budget impacts would be for construction and acquiring the hardware as well as operating practices.
And the trucks, right? It's the truck. I mean,
Yes, ma'am. There is a special crane that we would buy a basic truck chassis for and then affix a crane to it.
Oh, okay.
So this little thing on top is where the crane reaches over and grabs it. And so it just picks up the entire thing, swings it over, the truck, and then opens the lever, and then everything falls out the bottom, and then you swing
But
it
it's
back
the
over,
same
put it back in.
trucks. We just put cranes on the trucks?
No, it's not the same trucks. Basically what we'll do is we'll buy just a basic truck without a chassis on it. So, a truck that could have a residential collection body put on it or something like that, we'll put a crane on it instead. Am I speaking
Yeah,
accurately?
you're more like, it's the same truck, but you just, the piece that goes on the back of it is
It's
different.
different.
Yes.
Do you have a picture of it kind of?
Is it still
It's
one truck?
basically a
I'll take that
roll-off.
I don't
truck.
have a picture of the truck.
Is it
Aaron was
a
really
truck
excited
operation
about
of the crane and the disposal?
Correct. And then there's a second that's like a manual crane in case something were to break down, you could go grab it and dump it manually if you had to.
I'm not sure. So is it one truck or two?
One truck.
If everything works right, it's one truck.
Yeah, everything works right. It's one truck. Correct.
And these things, the gray part of these,
It's like a mailbox.
well, that's what I'm trying to say. The gray part
You can,
is where you put your stuff.
that's right. You can step on this lever and open it if you don't want to put your hands on that and open it. So that gray part will swing open.
How far does that gray thing come? Oh, it swings open.
Right. It's
And-
similar to a trash chute. If you've ever stayed in like a condominium style building somewhere, you know, they have the trash chute, you pull the little deal and then drop your bags in and it goes down.
So it's not a huge hole. And from a safety standpoint, you can't stuff things down there that shouldn't be stuffed down there.
correct. And it's something
Like
that
people.
not unlike a mailbox, it wouldn't be impossible to get into,
Right.
but the box does have infrared sensors in it. So if a person were to get inside, then it would trigger
I
an
mean,
alarm.
the same thing that you put a refrigerator out, you take the door off so kids can't get in there to play.
Right.
Okay.
Can these be locked also? So
They also have locks if you were to use it for like an apartment complex or something, then you could give a key to the residence and that way you wouldn't have communal dumping that's not supposed to be there.
So very interesting concept.
Yeah, Erin was real excited about this when she presented this.
Does it have sensors to tell you when it's time to empty them too?
They
Yes.
do. You get, if you were to buy in, you get a year free and then there's a extra cost for that if it's something you like.
What about odors?
It helps control odor quite a bit too. When Justin and I went, it's obviously a trash receptacle. You know, when you open that door, there's going to be some gunk in there. But when you pass by, you know, on the street, we went to one that was serving a group of restaurants. So obviously, you know, wet trash, dripping trash that goes out, and there's no food odor of notice. It's the same thing if you were to walk by a dumpster that serves a restaurant, you
Yeah.
can usually smell that
Yes, you can.
mix, but you might see some wet spots on the ground where something leaked, but no extreme odors.
So that's one of the advantages, and the other advantages over just traditional dumpsters are just appearance. People think these look better because
Oh, they
you don't
do.
have so much sticking up above ground, and then also should be better for rodents.
For mobility, I think in a lot of areas, people use alleys to get from one place to another. I think that would help a lot.
So be looking at that, a couple other just business and operating practices that we're assessing. Like to get fully staffed, and in addition to Eugene, we have a commercial foreman that's vacant right now. And then also in this reporting period, we were looking ahead to the groundbreaking for the solid waste complex, which has happened. Transportation is looking at amending our traffic calming policy so that we get away from the speed humps and bumps that you see represented here to something more like this, driver feedback sign. So hopefully that is welcome news to this audience. We plan on proceeding with that if there are no objections. Also looking at our street light procedures, I think the last resolution date was 1995. And so it still talks about metal halide fixtures. We don't do those anymore. We need to incorporate some of the things that would address LEDs and update the lumen requirements and all kinds of stuff like that. So we'll be reviewing that with Encore.
Do we look at the issues of not lighting the night skies? at all?
Yeah, I'll be involved in that. So I'm
Oh,
a
good.
big proponent of that. I think
Good,
David
good.
is very favorable towards that also. And we'll be highlighting that as a specific item to look at.
Streetlights
Travis,
are complicated because there's always a push of
Sure.
streetlights everywhere and night sky, dark sky initiatives. So we hope to land somewhere out there in the middle that's a good compromise for all.
Travis Audubon in Austin right now is pushing during peak migration period, which is very important to dim lights or turn lights off as much as possible.
I think it would be one thing that's important is just to, if you can try to shield these so that all the light that doesn't go straight down and just goes back up and reflects off
Right.
the hood, so that you spend all of your light and time and and energy and money on
Lighting what you
illuminating
wanna
the
light.
intended surface, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna try to make life better for people that use West Adams. Take a look at the timing of those traffic signals. I know a lot of people are interested in that. Must be an old picture because there's no palm trees on West Adams. So don't try too hard to figure that out. And also have some associated hardware to update Adams and other locations in the city. Once you get done rebuilding Mouser Road, this also is not a picture from Temple. So for Fleet, gonna spend a whole lot of time and effort on purchasing new assets, spending a whole lot of time right now helping everybody get their budgets done, because vehicle and equipment replaces and additions as we grow are big part of everyone's budget. So they're very busy with that. Doing several different items to train staff. The last one, I didn't know what EVT meant either. It's emergency vehicles. So we're trying to get better trained on serving the fire department. We would like to get 3 or 4 people on the heavy duty truck side certified in that. Previously, we had a very tenured staff member who was just a guru, real maestro with the fire trucks, and they've since retired. So we're trying to build that knowledge void. And there's a motor pool software on our work order management system in Fleet. And we would also like to get them fully. So we're 2 vacancies away from being fully staffed in the Fleet division.
The EVT, or could you go back to that slide?
ma'am.
Sorry. The HD technicians, could we partner with TISD on that at all, or would they be, the need is too great to have 2 entities share?
Are you suggesting that we try to work with them to include those components in their curriculum?
No. They have HD technicians in their fleet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I would guess that they don't have the certifications for working on the emergency vehicles though.
Okay.
If there's a good idea there, it's bound to come up, because we are in discussions with them
Good.
about, hopefully eventually sending staff members our way.
So
as future
with the
employees.
curriculum, first part of your question, we're looking at that too? They are?
We're mostly focusing on recruitment,
Okay,
but I mean, that naturally we can talk about the curriculum also.
good.
This certification is not, it's not easy to find it available everywhere offered as a class. So sent some folks out of state, and then previously we sent one person out of state trying to get them to get certified as soon as possible. And that guy did pass his test. So that was successful. And then so we want to send another couple of people to the in-state one.
Good.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I just want to comment. Don and his team gave me a 2.5 hour tour, 2 weeks ago?
Called a 3-hour tour in reference to
A fleet, bulk, and all those operations. Most impressive group of people out there. And I enjoyed it very much. I really got to see the backbone of how you keep this operation going. And I thought I met a lot of people out there I liked. The next week, they didn't pick my trash up. So I felt like, well, maybe I said something I shouldn't have. So I called out there and found out that our cameras on the trash truck do work because my trash wasn't out there. I got it out there.
Yeah, we'll bet you.
So you like them, they didn't like you.
Yeah. No, it was really a tour well worthwhile, and I appreciate everybody taking the time to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Our assistant director over operations, Ralph Martinez, when he first came to town and I showed him around our facilities, the fleet facilities were so well cleaned and, kind of organized and everything. And he was convinced that I told them that he was coming. And, and now he knows otherwise. He knows how well to keep it, but we didn't tell him you were coming. So you saw everything the way it
well done.
Always is.
700 or 900 vehicles and pieces of equipment they're in charge of.
700.
700, yeah. Everything from fire trucks to lawn.
Yeah, and quite a bit recommended for upcoming budget years too, as additions. So
yeah, good tour.
Wow.
I can't wait to see all those improvements. I did not go to the recycling. You told me my life insurance was high.
This is why we're rebuilding.
I know.
That's right.
I know.
You'll love the tour of the new one.
That's right.
Well, we just want to save the best for you and come to the new one.
If you're doing tours again, tell the rest of us. So, I mean, I know we can't all go at once. I know.
I would love to have y'all all show up and then nod at the same suggestions at the same time. I think that would be
I
a
will
great
not
idea.
want that. No, I would not be really excited.
Let me on the bus with you.
And not duplicate your time.
Sure.
So you should have told us you were going.
I
We
didn't
could have
know.
argued.
Yeah.
Good job.
Maybe that would be a good stop on one of our new quarterly tours we talked about yesterday. Did you and I talk about
Gonna let us do this.
posted meeting? Anybody's welcome.
Well, then Don
One of your
could have,
scavenger hunts.
Don could have all of us as a question. meeting.
Well, let me. I wanted to do a scavenger hunt in a budget retreat, but she said
Well, I think Don said you cheated, so.
no, right? No, I did not.
I've heard that, and it wasn't from Don.
But Don told him to say.
Yeah.
I did not cheat.
What about your team?
I did
You're
win,
getting
but
defensive.
Had kind of a beefed up team.
Kelly was my team leader.
but we drew like ping pong balls. It was completely random. We did happen to have the
Grim, we believe you.
social media expert to help us with our pictures and our, yeah. Yeah, I do sound a little bit defensive, don't I?
Yes.
My goodness, we don't have all day.
All right, so IT's up next. Leave the boring stuff for last. First, we'll go over the projects that we completed last quarter. All of these seem pretty minor, but they are small portions of the bigger picture. So the first item up here, Shannon talked about with the airport, implementing work order system. We're working on replacing all of our Google Maps with our Esri maps, just so that everything's consistent and up to date. Upgrading, keeping software to the latest and greatest version.
Is that just a different format? Because I've seen that term before.
Well, it's the system that we use for all of our GIS. And for
I mean, but is that something that the public has access to, or is that something that ends up being embedded in some sort of program that?
So, yeah, so it's a program that we made, but we can make those maps public through Ed3.
Okay,
So some of them are public and some of them are internal, but it's just the program that we use to create all this maps.
I got you. So we can have all our data layers available and not just the Google aerial.
right. More customizable for,
A lot of times Google's very out of date.
Oh, yeah,
Our Esri is
for
much
sure.
more updated. Yep. So upgrading software.
For Environmental Systems Research Institute.
Thank you.
I would not have gotten that.
That's just so used to saying that. I never really think about things, but so we're keeping the software up to date. We added ETJ data to the planning maps so the planners can have full functionality. We work on all of our new buildings. We finished up with Fire Station 5. And then we added some online tools for this specifically for Bell County, but our goal was always for self-help so people can get their own information and we don't have to be involved. Next one is fiscal and calendar year end. Although finance does the majority of the work, we just try to help them coordinate, keep things moving. We moved some of our telephone trunks from City Hall and PD from AT&T to Grande, just because we had some service issues and some billing issues. We purchased site licenses for Smartsheet. It just gives everybody a tool since we don't have Visio licenses. And the two major projects that we're most excited about are our cybersecurity tools. The first is Cortex XDR. So this is software that's running in the background, always checking for any kind of threat, any kind of access that looks like it shouldn't, like it's out of the normal. It's smart. It learns from past history, what it should expect, what's common, what's not. And I've provided just a quick email here of what it gives us. So it's running in the background. It's looking for threats all the time. And this is just one of the examples of the emails that we get all the time, 24/7. In this case, the software learned about a black matter ransom issue. And so what it did is it goes through our system and checks to see if we're affected by that. So this is a good one that says there's no impact. It doesn't affect us. On the other side, here's one that it does affect us. So in this situation where I've got it grayed out there, this user, someone was trying to log into their account from Brazil. Well, obviously, that's not supposed to happen. So we were able to, from this email, contact them, reset their password, and eliminate any possible problems.
She grayed it out, but she told me it was not me. She assured me, because that's like my worst nightmare.
So many municipalities are undergoing ransom attacks or threats or whatever the correct term is.
Yes, cybersecurity attack, yeah.
So I was going to leave the name in there, Bryn, just to prove to you that it wasn't you.
She won't tell me who it is.
But I felt like, I mean, completely not this person's fault, yeah, but I thought it might make that person feel bad, so, but grade it up. And then our next new tool is Proofpoint, and this is the same type security protection, only this is for our email. So it's again running in the background, and it's looking for links, it's looking for spam malware, it's looking for anything that could do us harm. This is one of the reports that we got, and I think we didn't get this implemented till December. So this is a very small amount of data. I think it's only a few weeks. Yeah, but it just tells us we're 100% protected, and all of the type threats there at the bottom that it was looking for or it had potentially detected.
So the municipalities that who have had ransom attacks and have paid money, are they municipalities that just didn't have any of this until after they paid?
It could be that they didn't have these tools. It could be they didn't catch their time. It could be they're not running their updates. There's
A lot of
it's a
reasons
constant.
possible. Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You can never be 100% protected though, right? So
Right.
just because an entity had a successful attack doesn't necessarily mean they did anything wrong. But we just have a very high focus on doing everything we reasonably can to protect our network, and avoid that. But, I don't think any of us can stand here and say we absolutely 100% are protected, but we do take it very seriously and invest where we can and need to in the tools that help that help Kelly and her team to keep us safe. And they've been very successful in averting some pretty scary things that could have happened over the last few years.
So that's 100 attempts, 99 attempts in roughly 3 weeks. Am I reading that?
That's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So 1,500 attempts or so.
It's,
Wow.
yeah. So in the next quarters, I'll have better data for you because we'll have more usage at that time.
I have a client that got locked out of their system with ransomware and spent $3 million. Get it back.
Whoa.
3 million.
And how much time?
A lot.
A lot of time lost.
And there were they're in the medical industry with direct care to patients. So it's not Scott and White. Yeah, I mean, it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
They paid rather than continue to wait.
Yeah. And then this report just shows us where we compare with other cities, so the local government, state and federal that also use the same tools. And also at the bottom, you can kind of see the graph of what kind of attacks is looking for, and it finds so the majority of ours are phishing credentials. Projects that we hope to complete next quarter. PrimeGov, I think you all are familiar with that, what we use for agendas. We are also implementing that for all of our boards and commissions, and not every board and commission will have the same, we'll use it the same way. Some will just use it for agendas, some will actually use it for meeting minutes, some will use it at different levels. The cemetery software, the GIS team has made an application for them to use. They were using sim sites, but it just turned out to be not a all-inclusive tool that they needed. So GIS has made them a tool. I think next week is our handover to them, where they can start doing a reconciliation process and making sure all the names and people are in the right places. And then they're also going to provide an application to the public so that citizens can search for their loved ones. We transition our financial software.
She says that real quick, but that is our in-house team creating a software program that we need, that nobody on the market could meet, and they did. She's got the talent here that they did it, and and what Sean and also talked about. So they've got lots of talented people there.
Yeah, so just to back up a minute, all of this is all the team. I have an amazing team that does all of this. They're awesome. But we did transition our financial system to the cloud. And I don't know, Tracy, what do you think? Not so bad?
I need help resetting my password.
I can help.
So visually, it should all look the same. We did have a few hiccups with the smaller things that don't impact citywide. Some issues with scanners. Nothing that stopped the show. We were continuing to move on Monday. And then surveillance cameras, we're replacing them at Hillcrest, the CNG station, and Wildcat. We're having a heck of a time getting the equipment. Now that we're starting to get the equipment, we're borrowing equipment to install them, like the bucket trucks and things like that we don't have.
Are these being replaced because of vandalism? I mean, those are all kind of public areas for just time.
Yeah, it's time.
That's good.
On your cemetery software, can that be sold on the market? Can y'all take that out and try to make it something you offer to other cities for a fee?
Potentially, yes.
I'm assuming there's a lot of cities that run cemeteries. And if there's nothing on the market today, y'all created one, it'd be worthwhile investing.
Yeah. The permitting software that we use is a very similar thing. I think it was a Louisiana jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's a
county, maybe
Louisiana.
created the system for their use. But it worked so well for them, and they saw, I think, probably first a regionally, beneficial use, but now they sell it to jurisdictions across the country. So we might be putting Kelly in business.
We're upgrading or renewing and upgrading our Microsoft licenses and adding some new licenses for our niche, our new records management software. We are adding once construction gets done downstairs, we're adding a 65-inch TV that's going to display the council agenda to the public.
That says 65 foot.
Yeah, it sure does,
That's
doesn't
gonna
it?
be pretty good size. Where are we gonna put that?
I'll fix that, thank you. I've given this 3 or 4 times and I've never noticed that.
Well, nobody else did either.
And then building access control to Fire 3 and the library and human resources will be future. Then ongoing projects that we'll continue to work on, just talked about the records management software for PD. It's going to be a pretty big project, but I'll let Sean talk about that when it's his turn. Network, again, construction and the design and implementation of all of the new construction, and I did not add animal shelter on there. I need to do that. And then continuing to replace the MDTs on our annual cycle, 4-year cycle. And then our KPI is I kind of looks like I'm cheating that everything says 100% available, but we're in the 99.9 something percent. So we rounded to 100, and that's the financial system availability and network, City Hall. And the same thing with public safety and 911 accuracy.
Good.
And last thing I have is our org chart. I'm not sure all of you have seen this, so I thought I'd bring it to your attention. We have been working with HR, Finance, and Bryn to do a little restructuring. So with the 2 positions in yellow, the infrastructure manager and the support manager are 2 new positions. And the support tech on the bottom, the network support, and the tech support specialist. I thought I had these highlighted, I'm sorry. Yeah, so we have 2 new techs and 2 new managers, new positions that we hope to fill, hope to have them posted soon. One of the techs is for niche, the records management. The network is for video cameras and door access. And then the 2 managers are just, we've titled them as managers, but we're looking for someone that can also do the job. So working managers.
What's your turnover like in your department?
Oh, it's very low, very low. I think we were talking with Christina the other day, and with 5 or 6 employees, we have over 200 years.
Wow.
Usually when there's a new face, it's because of a position being added. I'm trying to think of, or just a situation, someone, moved out of state, or if they.
I only see one position on there that's vacant, that security admin in the left-hand column.
Yeah,
Otherwise-
this one's like vacant.
Well, those are planned, right?
Yeah.
Bring on board.
This is future. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really is. I think I have been here a little over 7 years, and I've seen 2 people retire, and then 1 person moved within the city to a different position. So it's
That's great.
very low.
That's great.
You've had-
Congratulations.
2 that's left and come back too, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Are all of you situated together now? Or are
No.
you still floating around waiting for
We're
the
all over
building?
the place.
You're all, that's what I thought.
And that is going to be a challenge for us, is to find space for these new positions.
Even with all the renovations.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Yeah, we have GIS is in the Fred Poteet building, which is super tiny. And then we have the 2 offices on the 2nd floor. But yeah, we're running out of space, and then with all the equipment that we have.
You have to remember they have these, server rooms and.
Right.
And
Another tour we're in.
Yeah, and there's that area is challenging from an accessibility standpoint, because
You have to climb a ladder.
Where is
You-
that?
it's-
Where is the server room?
it's, you go into the IT main offices, there's, it's essentially right behind their reception area, but you have to go up a very steep ramp. It wouldn't be, you couldn't really, with an older building like this, you're kind of making do on not making do, was not the right way to say it. Your space isn't necessarily optimized the same way you could optimize it, if you were in a brand new build. So if you look at their square footage for IT, they have more square footage than is actually really usable for them. So
Are
they,
you trying to get more
Pretty tight.
things in the cloud to get rid of that excess server need?
Yes, yes. So equipment has gotten so much smaller too, right? So you used to need much more space for those type of things, but so not seeing the room, it's hard to describe, but when you go up that ramp, the door, the room that you enter used to be full of server equipment. And now we've got it down to just one small side, but the cooling requirements, it's loud, it's chilly, it's just not real friendly for an office. So we're hoping that maybe we can make some changes to that area to make some space.
There's gonna be an office for one or two all in after our building A renovation.
For GIS staff.
You mean at the new, recycling facility?
No, ma'am, after we renovate, well, actually, we're doing expansion to building A, which is the main admin building, and moving some offices around, and we're dedicating a space to GIS staff.
You gone on that tour with me, you would have known that.
Well, if you told me you were having a tour, I would have known. I would have gone.
Oh, y'all just turned that on me.
And that's all I have. Any questions?
I think we already asked them all.
you.
Thank you. Good job.
Thanks so much, Philip. I think that's the last one.
Very good. Thank you, staff, for those updates. Very much appreciated. All right, it is currently 20 minutes until 4, and council will now enter into executive session to discuss receiving a briefing from the city attorney on a contract issue regarding the Parks and Rec admin building pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071. City council meets in executive session to discuss and receive advice regarding the matter of attorney-client privilege. No final action will be taken. And then item number 5 is to receive and discuss a briefing regarding certain economic development prospects and potential real property acquisitions or sales pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.072 and .087. Council may meet in closed session to discuss or deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person, to discuss or deliberate commercial or financial information received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city of Temple, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic disability negotiations, or to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to such a business prospect. No final action will be taken. Thank you all for sitting. It's very respectful.
Very good job. What'd you say?
Yeah.